something completely different.
Happy Hot Topic.
Here we go.
I'm like now thinking this through. I don't think I've answered this question before.
What's the thing? What's the best mouth hug tip you've never been asked?
But good question. I haven't been asked that before.
Okay.
So I think that the right way to handle a situation like that would have been to probably say it was, nobody's business.
Yeah, but this was the 90s, honey, when everybody was pretty uptight about sex. So it's not like now where we applaud side chicks. You were a side chick in the wrong era.
And to resign,
Monica Lewinsky is getting candid about how she believes former President Bill Clinton should have handled the fallout from their relationship scandal. Lewinsky gained international attention in 1998 after news broke of her nearly 2-year affair with the U.S. president.
I bet she gives a good mouth hug, too. No teeth.
Which had started when she was 22 years old. The anti-bullying advocate joined Alex.
Of course she'd be anti-bullying advocate. How about not ruining marriages advocate? I know he was a frequent flyer to Pedophile Island and banged a lot of other women, so she's not the sole reason that marriage is kind of crampy. But she didn't help out.
Cooper on the February 26th episode of Call Her Daddy, where she spoke about that time in her life and recalled the day the world found out.
Just to reel it back a few days.
Yeah, I'll reel it back whenever you bang.
I found out about the investigation several days before the rest of the world did.
She's like, I can't just give a blowjob in peace.
There was a sting operation that happened at a shopping mall. And then I was there was a Ritz-Carlton attached to the shopping mall.
Yeah.
And I was in the hotel room. Really realizing that what felt like my life was over. Certainly my life was going to change and that I was threatened with jail. And she's
like, I'm just trying to get ahead like that girl Kamala Harris in San Francisco.
Essentially told if I didn't cooperate and wear a wire that I would go to jail for 27 years. So, oh my God. And so,
oh my God, actions have consequences, Alex Cooper.
I kind of saw
like hiring Alex Earl to your podcast network.
This train starting to barrel down the tracks. And I really felt like the January 21st, opening the door. I was living in the Watergate apartment complex with my mom.
Nice and bougie, just hanging on the Watergate building where there's the ghost of Richard Nixon.
So I remember opening the door, and these were in the days where people would get a newspaper delivered, and in DC it was always several.
And I'd use the newspaper to help clean up.
Like the Post and the New York Times, and I remember seeing my name above the fold and in the investigation, and looking down the hall and seeing the exact same newspaper outside everybody else's door. And it was shocking. It was terrifying. And
actions have consequences. Why are you the victim? You did get screwed over a little bit in more ways than one, but it's not like you're innocent. It's not like you thought he was single.
And
these liberal kiss-ass feminists like Alex Cooper just give her and Kamala Harris stupid interviews where they can say whatever.
I didn't actually know how to process anything.
Yeah, I was too busy giving mouth hugs.
And really it was a moment where life as I knew it was over.
Monica and Alex discussed the media frenzy and how it affected Monica at the time.
The media attention, there's paparazzi outside at all times. Like,
you slept with a married president. What do you think it's just going to be, especially in the 90s? So you think it's going to be, whatever. What's wrong with you? How are you a victim?
what were you doing every
Unless you went to Pedophile Island without your consent, you're not a victim.
day? Like, were you going stir crazy?
Oh yeah. I mean, first I was obsessed with the case. I think too, just to paint a little bit of a landscape of what the media.
She's really friggin' wordy. During arguments, she never shuts up.
What the media life was like, because we have a sense of how things are today with the, how we could get inundated with a story online with social media. Now there are 8 bajillion outlets. But
Whenever a liar has to be really wordy so you forget what you even asked, they're lying.
But what it meant back then was this story was actually, instead of a story having legs for a week, which is considered a long time in today's world,
Yes.
I mean, it was a year. It was a year of coverage. In the first 10 days of the investigation, the Washington Post alone had published 127 articles. So that's like 12 articles a day.
You poor thing. I bet you never take accountability in any other relationship you've ever been in and wonder why you're washed up at 52.
On just this.
Especially in the era of MILFs and cougars, you're washed up.
This story. So it was, and that was one news outlet, and this was global.
Can you explain initially, once this all broke, how right off the bat was the media portraying you?
Oh, I think for 5 seconds, it was sympathetic. And maybe after about a week, once the White House got in gear, I was very quickly painted as a stalker, a whore.
Is that false? He was married.
Mentally unstable, a bimbo.
Is that false? I'm mentally unstable, so I am the authority on all things mentally unstable, and you're the definition of it. You think you're a victim when you gave head to a married man.
Both the pursuer in this and also not attractive enough to be pursued.
Honestly, Monica, I want to thank you for doing this stupid interview, because you've really made my day, making me realize that my cat's turd in its letterbox has more credibility than you. You have no self-awareness, like most narcissistic women that are attractive.
And really there was a creation of a version of me that I didn't recognize, and my friends and family didn't recognize. And that's what happens when you have a power imbalance in a story where media is so
a power imbalance. You gave head to a married man. It makes you wonder how many relationships she has ruined.
integral to it unfolding.
The 51-year-old also shared her conflicting feelings at the time on Bill Clinton's infamous line during a press conference addressing the scandal, in which he falsely said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." Clinton was later acquitted in his impeachment trial for charges of lying under oath and obstruction of justice.
Naughty.
In the moment, I was split because
Yeah, you were split wide open.
I felt so guilty.
You should.
I felt so guilty for everything.
But I'm a sociopath, so I don't like feeling emotions.
I felt like this having become public was my fault.
Why?
Because I had confided in Linda. And so if I had not confided in her, I felt as if this wouldn't have become public. And
Trust me, when you have somebody who's in power, I've worked around people who cheat on their wife, and the word gets out.
so there was an enormous amount of guilt. I didn't want him to lose his job.
Oh, geez.
So there was a part of me that felt, good, deny it. This is what you should do. That sort of a thing. And then there was a part of me that was so humiliated, and to kind of have the most powerful man in the world saying that, basically you're damaged goods.
I mean, you kind of are. You're the definition of it. What do you think? You're not damaged goods?
Like, is not something you want as a 51-year-old woman, and not something you want as a 24-year-old woman.
The activist detailed how difficult it was to move on from the scandal, sharing that she didn't recognize how much she had lost until she was getting turned down to interview for job opportunities after graduate school. She also noted that there were times she thought about changing her name, though decided against it as she questioned how practical that really would be.
Everything from I wasn't even allowed to go interview certain places. Like,
whoa, it's almost like some places have, morals.
A place would say no.
Although the places that have morals tend to be the sluttiest.
You can't even come interview, even though I was qualified.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Because it was 2007 when I was job hunting.
Yeah, and
I was, and then Hillary was running in 2008. So
yeah, it's kind of bad timing to be the side chick.
There was this high likelihood that she would become president, or could get the nomination. So I think at that point she was expected to get the nomination, but of course Barack Obama did.
Yeah, we lived it unless you were born in 2009.
So at this period of time when I am job hunting, people were saying, well, could you get a letter of indemnity? I can never say this. I had Bell's palsy a few years ago. So sometimes some words are still a little hard for
Yeah, that's serious.
me, but indemnity.
Not the lack of intelligence.
Asked me if I could get a letter of indemnification. If they hired me, because they relied on grants.
I bet when she was done giving head to Bill, she would just be talking and talking. Like when you're hooking up with a girl, and I'm not saying you just hit it and quit it and leave, but you do have that thing Lil Wayne describes the best, the philosopher of our generation, Lil Wayne. First you come, then you come to your senses. That moment where you have the clarity where you're like, get me the hell out of here. There's an NBA game on. And the woman, she's like, blah, blah. What's your favorite memory of growing up? And that's cool and all, but they don't shut up. Yeah, Monica's like that when she's done giving head to Bill. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, get out of here. Hillary's going to be here soon.
And so they were worried that they would lose all their funding. So it was,
It was what? Get the point out.
A couple places that, were interested to hire me, but would be like, well, you'd be interacting with the media.
Yeah, that doesn't really work out for you unless you're on a kiss-ass interview with Call Her Daddy.
So, I mean, it's just,
Was there ever a point that not that you should, but was there ever a point that you or anyone in your family thought of changing your name or your last?
You're pretty recognizable, but with the weight loss, not as much. Although people called her fat. You could spank that ass. She was really attractive. I liked her thickness. I don't like skinny girls.
Last name at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was definitely a period of time that I contemplated it, except given the world we lived in, I couldn't even see a reality of that.
Got it.
Like, how is that really going to work? Right? I'm going to walk down the street in LA where I was raised and running.
Oh, you poor thing. You ruined the marriage publicly. Yeah, the marriage is already messed up, but you ruined it publicly, and somehow you're the victim. You are a textbook narcissist.
Into someone and they'll say Monica and I'll, oh, my name is Rebecca now. I mean, like,
Oh, James.
Didn't even know how that
You look more like a Rebecca, let's be honest.
How that would work. Or people had suggested, well, you could put a different name on your CV. And I thought about that. But then, when you play that forward, you just, so what? I'm going to walk into a job interview. The person.
Nobody cares that much about you, Monica. You're known as the girl that gave Bill Clinton head. Just admit it. You should have done a sex advice radio show in the 2000s to go up against Loveline. You should have just embraced it. You are a 90s hawk too.
In their head is like,
That's who she is. She is a 90s hawk too.
girl looks a lot like Monica Lewinsky.
No one's thinking about you.
And, and they're looking at me and I'm looking at them.
This is so freaking annoying.
Lewinsky shared where she stands now and how she views her relationship with the former president
I'm sure they hang out all the time. Of course they're not hanging out. What a stupid question.
after previously having conflicting thoughts on it.
In 2014, you
I kind of miss his penis.
said the relationship was consensual. In 2018, you said you were just reevaluating how power dynamics impact consent.
No one forced you to give him head. I understand that there's moments like Diddy and Harvey Weinstein where there is pressure to sleep with a man to get ahead, but this was not a case of that.
Now, today, where do you stand?
It's really still, I kind of landed in the place that I landed in
I landed right on his lap
in 2018.
and on the ground in between his legs.
Okay.
which was this sense of, I'm very clear this was not sexual assault.
It wasn't. It was consent. Blah, blah, blah. You're a career side chick. Blah, blah, blah. You're not that interesting. Blah, blah, blah. Jesus Christ.
And therefore there's a level of consensuality that was there. And at the same time, because of the power dynamics and the power differential.
Oh, stop it. You wanted to get ahead. You were one of the 100 interns. So you're like, how can I get ahead? I'll give him head literally.
I never should have been in that position.
Oh, yeah. I never should have been there or I would have had no problems. But then again, I would not have been famous. So how do I want it? Because I want to be a cloud chaser. I want to be famous. So just embrace it, Monica. Just embrace it. Stop rewriting the past. You're the worst. All right.
Happy hour. Happy hour.
It's time for Hoppe in the morning.
RyanHoppeRadio.com